fighter has the highest fight IQ?
I don't think there's nobody in the game that has the fight IQ that I have.
Off the charts.
His IQ
the
is
highest
insane.
fight IQ maybe ever.
This guy hits hard. He's tough. He's this, he's that. And this guy has a dream. But my fight IQ will win this fight.
Welcome to the Fight IQ podcast. We're back with another episode. This weekend we have UFC Fight Night, Saudi Arabia, Adesanya versus Imavov. In my opinion, a much better card than what we have coming up for UFC 312. So to be honest with you, I'm more excited about this card than next week's card. The main card is really stacked here. Unfortunately, Ikram Aliskerov versus Andre Muniz is canceled, so we won't have that one. The prelims are okay. It starts off pretty weak, but the card does get better as we move up. So let's start at the bottom here. Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Jamal Pogues. Man, so there's something with Hamdi here. So first off, he had a good fight, kind of a war with Dontel Mays. Then it came out later that he actually was on anabolic steroids, and had a history of it. He tested positive directly after his fight with Dontel Mays. I'm going Jamal Pogues here. They're both very, very average heavyweights, but I think all of Hamdi's success so far has come from his steroid usage, because it seems like he's been using steroids his entire career.
Yeah, I think I'm going Hamdi on this one. Steroids play a big role. They do to some extent, right? When it comes to the athleticism and the strength component, it does, but it doesn't necessarily affect your skill, right? Somebody's skill, regardless of whether they're on anabolic steroids, is still going to be there. It's just maybe a little bit more pop behind the punches. I think in this case, I am going to go Hamdi. He's had some bare knuckle fights in the past too, which is kind of interesting. So he's very comfortable standing. And I think Jamal Pogues is not necessarily going to be trying to take him down. So I think we're going to see a standing fight here. And I think Hamdi just edges him out a little bit.
I'm going to go Jamal Pogues on this one. I feel like he has the better wins in MMA, and the Stormtrooper just has ways to, get it done. He has to go, it's usually by decision. So, it's probably going to be another 3-round heavyweight decision. But, he has some solid wins, and the only loss he has in the UFC is to Mick Parkin, who is, pretty decent for an up-and-coming heavyweight. So I feel like just the experience in a loss to Mick Parkin is going to be more beneficial to Jamal Pogues than anything that Hamdi is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Hamdi definitely has probably the slight grappling advantage. At times during the Dontel Mays fight, he was throwing him around, and Dontel Mays is a big heavyweight. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I do kind of rate Jamal Pogues' ability to win a decision. And now that Hamdi is not going to be fighting performance enhanced, it's a little questionable for me. Let's move up though. Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander. This is debut for both of them, I believe. I'm going to go Bogdan Grad. Just looking at their past wins and losses, Lucas Alexander, I believe, is 8-4 or 9-4. Yeah, they have him listed as 8-4. Bogdan Grad 14-2. He is aggressive. Bogdan Grad walks forward, throws combos, strong combos. I trust that. I'm gonna count on Bogdan to get this one done.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going Bogdan as well here. It is his debut. It's not Lucas Alexander's debut, though. He's had a couple fights in the UFC. He got submitted by Joe Anderson Brito a little while ago.
Oh, that's right.
Bogdan's record is very impressive. If you look at it, he's got a wide variety of finishes. I think he had a flying knee KO. He's had guillotine chokes. He's had a bunch of ground and pound. So he's won by a couple different ways and seems to be able to get it done. He's young. He's athletic, obviously trying to make a big name for his debut. I think he gets it done pretty handily.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Bogdan on this one. I just feel like he's on a pretty solid win streak. He did have a split decision coming into the Contender Series, but at the same time, I feel like he has more weapons that are going to help him win the fight in this case. I think this it has potential to be a pretty exciting fight. I am going to be looking at this one on the early prelims for a little bit of excitement, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Fair. With that, let's move up. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Mayra Buena Silva. Now, Mayra Bueno Silva is moving down to flyweight here. She's fought her whole entire career at bantamweight. This is interesting, and I think actually is a pretty tough matchup for her. Jasmine has, kind of worked her way into this, definitely the best fraud checker in the women's flyweight division.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good prospects that we see come into the UFC get fraud checked by her. Even a female fighter who I'm pretty hot on, Pilastri. They fought back on the Contender Series, and it was a pretty close fight. But Jasmine is good. She's not the greatest finisher, although she does have some good finishes. But she is very good at winning fights. Mayra Bueno Silva, I'm interested to see how her size translates down here, because I thought she was even a pretty big bantamweight.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there may be reason for that, as she is the second fighter on the card that has been popped for steroid usage. Mm-hmm. She had a win over Holly Holm via ninja choke that was overturned due to failing a pre-fight drug test. So maybe moving down is a matter of not being able to hold on to that muscle anymore. We don't know how long that's been going on, but at least for one of her major wins recently. So I'm going Jazz Davicius as well. I think she's just had such a great record. I mean, her only loss is to Tracy Cortez, or at least recently. And Tracy Cortez is, clearly in a position to start working up towards a title now too. I think she gets it done for sure. She seems to beat everybody that might be cool in the division. So it's
because she's well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely is a very well-rounded fighter. Usually in the women's flyweight division, we see she's coming in, she's a striker. She's coming in, she's a grappler. Jazz Davicius is very well-rounded. She can strike with good strikers. She can grapple with good grapplers. I will trust in her to get this one done.
For sure.
I'm actually going to go with Bueno Silva on this one. I know she's on a little bit of a skid, but coming from a higher weight class, if she's able to make the weight and be the bigger opponent, I think her boxing is going to serve her well in this fight, because Bueno Silva does have some pretty solid boxing, and her game has always been very physically imposing. So what I'm going to bet on in this fight is her being able to outmuscle Jasmine and possibly just stall her out, probably into a decision, or make something happen with her boxing.
Nice.
Yeah, fair. Let's move up. Martin, I know you're going to be really excited for this one. Mike Davis versus Fares Ziam. We got Fares Ziam coming off a really, really good knockout. I think it's his only knockout in the UFC, but a very, very good one. And Mike Davis, doesn't fight very often, but every time we see him, it's a really, really fun fight.
Yeah, man. And Mike Davis is one of those people that a lot of people are probably unfamiliar with, unless you're a super hardcore, because he doesn't fight as often. But every time he shows up, it just shows how skilled he is by his performances. He was in one of our videos for one of the best one-sided beatdowns of all time against Thomas Gifford. And he's just one of those fighters where it's every technique he throws, it's very effective. It's very technically sound. That you can tell that there's a lot of power behind it. He's almost disrespectful with his MMA game. If you shoot a takedown on him, he's the type to turn around and just put your ass into the mat, just to show you if after he defends a takedown, it's you can take me down, but I'll put you down. And his striking is not something to be slept on. So I think this is a great fight to showcase his skill set against Fares Ziam, who's very hot right now, coming off a lot of wins.
Yeah, and while I do rate Mike Davis pretty highly as a fighter, I'm going to go with Fares Ziam in this fight. I think skill-wise, he's very good. He knows how to use his length. He's got a good reach with the arms and with the legs. And he's got good momentum right now. I'm going to pick Ziam to get it, but I think this could be fight of the night type deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going for Ziam on this one as well. I mean, obviously, that knee up against the cage for a knockout against Frivola was pretty impressive, and obviously his most impressive performance. That being said, it was one of those things where up to that point, he looked good still. He has really nice striking. He's got great range management where he can utilize that length. My only fear is maybe his durability a little bit, right? We don't know that that's been tested too much with somebody that hits hard like Mike Davis. But maybe against somebody like Frivola, who is also known to be a heavy hitter, he did fine.
Yeah, I do kind of see Mike Davis as like a cleaner version of Frivola.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Davis is a little bit more skilled, so it's definitely a jump for Ferez. So if he can get this one done, I think it continues that momentum pretty heavily for him.
I think people actually are pretty aware of Mike Davis's skill level. He is the favorite here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a minus 142 favorite. Those odds might get a little bit closer as we move closer to the fight. I could see it turning into a sort of pick'em deal. But yeah, I will say this is one of my picks to possibly be fight of the night for sure.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. And then moving up here, this is kind of interesting. So they re-signed Terrence McKinney this is his first fight on his new 4-fight contract. I think they're trying to give him a win here. Damir Hadzovic is a pretty mid-level fighter in terms of the UFC standards. Terrence McKinney, I really hope that Terrence starts using his wrestling a bit more. He is a very, very strong wrestler, and he's got great jiu-jitsu as well. I think like fighters can fall into this thing where they get some knockouts and they just fall in love with that feeling. And then so it doesn't really matter who they're fighting. They just want to go out and do that. I think he needs to up his IQ a little bit. And Terrence McKinney's like clearly not a very smart guy. But I think his coaches that he has around him, they need to impress on him that he needs to use his wrestling more. Because when he does, it's actually pretty hard to stop. But yeah, I'm going Terrence McKinney here. And I would even say maybe like ground and pound TKO.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Terrence McKinney on this one as well. I've always been a fan. He's definitely got some really impressive knockouts. He's got that crazy debut knockout in 7 seconds. I think it was also against Frivola.
It was, yeah.
Just really impressive. And yeah, I think you're right. It is one of those situations where sometimes people kind of get stuck with like, oh man, I can get really good finishes this way. It kind of boosts who I am as a fighter. People really like highlights. Let me just keep doing that. So yeah, I hope he can start to round out his game a little bit, but either way, he's a very impressive striker. And I do think they're giving him an opportunity to kind of make a name for himself now that he's got a new contract. I think Terrence McKinney's got this one.
Yeah, it 100% feels like that. They're going to give him a do-over, over the last, few performances that he's had, because he has some really bad KO losses, and he had them all back-to-back. So I'm happy that he took some time off, hopefully, to work on his striking defense and maybe like some decision-making when the fight's really getting off. Because one of the things that makes Terrence McKinney so good, but at the same time leaves him susceptible to being finished, is he does find success with his striking really early, and he rocks his opponent, and then it's that chaos of a finish. And he just goes life or death in those situations. He almost got Drew Dober out of there. So I think that he has a lot of potential. He just needs to learn how to make some better decisions. This is definitely a layup because this dude's 38 years old, has not the best record, and it's not a lot of finishes. So Terrence McKinney should be able to run through this guy.
Yeah, who was that fight that Damir had? He fought somebody. I'm forgetting who it was, but they finished him. I think they submitted him, and then the guy who won was like, damn, I wanted to fight more. What the hell? And Damir was like, you shouldn't have submitted me then.
Was that Moicano?
Oh, maybe.
Moicano submitted him in 44 seconds in the first round.
And Moicano was like, damn, I wanted to fight more. Damir's like, well, fuck, dude. Why'd you submit me then? Dumbass. All right, anyway.
Trying to get you out of there, bro.
Yeah, let's move up to Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi versus Balaji Oki.
Yeah.
Man, Balaji Oki is extremely explosive on the feet. Very, very explosive on the feet. I'm gonna go with Oki here. I think they probably have similar levels of grappling, and in the feet, I'm gonna take the speed of Oki. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Abdul Karim's 0-1 so far in the UFC, and Oki's been a little hit or miss. He's had some split decisions, and then he got submitted not too long ago to Chris Duncan. So it could go either way here, but I think Oki's got a little bit more athleticism. He's got a lot of aggression in his style, and his boxing's pretty decent. So I think he's going to be able to get it done here.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Oki in this one. I do think he's a very explosive fighter, and he's going to. I hope he finds, whatever his style really is, because I haven't seen very much to be impressed with in his past few fights. But at the same time, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see if he shows up. But he's going to have my pick right now just based off the vibes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when he gets people up against the fence, he does throw really, really good body-head combinations. He has multiple finishes by, like, hook to the liver.
Nice.
I like his striking style when he backs guys up against the fence. Hopefully he can do that in this fight, but I don't know. We'll see. I haven't seen too much with Al-Sawadi that I'm super impressed with, and I think that's the only reason that I'm going with Oki here.
Fair.
Let's go up. Shamil Gaziev versus Thomas Peterson. Dude, Thomas Peterson, what is up with this guy? He's like
he's unathletic, man.
Dude, he's like
just a fat heavyweight, bro.
NPC create a character to the max,
Yes.
dude. This is like the biggest NPC heavyweight on the roster, I think. Shamil Gaziev is getting it done, bro. There's no way Shamil Gaziev doesn't just destroy this dude.
Yeah, they're the only win that Thomas Peterson has, I believe, right now in the UFC is against Mohamed Usman, which I don't rate Usman all that highly anyway.
Usman's
and it's
trash.
one of those where it's just like Shamil is a much bigger step in competition than Usman, so I think it's an easy win for Shamil here.
Yeah, and regardless, Shamil is coming off a loss to Rosenstruik, I believe, where he kind of just gave up. He kind of like let the doctor stop it. But it clearly, to me at least, seemed like he was giving up. He just seemed like he didn't want to be in the fight anymore, and that was that.
Yeah.
He kind of let the doctor call it off. But that being said, at heavyweight, I do still kind of rank Shamil Gaziev. It's not a very strong division. I think he beats most of the guys in the division.
Yeah.
He is number 15, man. So say with that what you will.
Yeah.
But
UFC website has him at 14, I think, but they could be wrong.
I'm gonna go with Shamil Gaziev on this one. Thomas Peterson does have some solid wins against who did he fight? Let's see. I need to look this up. Muhammad Usman is the only solid win he has, and that's just because he's a prospect. I thought he had some better ones, but Shamil Gaziev has some momentum since that Rosenstrike loss, and he needs to build it back up, So I feel like this is going to be a good one for him. They have him in the Middle East, so they want him to win this one, and he's fighting number 58 in the world. Should be a winnable fight for him. Should be.
Let's move up to the main card, right? All right.
Yep.
Muhammad Naimov versus Khan Ofli. This is a good opener. I personally, I think Shamil Gaziev versus Thomas Peterson probably should have been the opener, being as Shamil Gaziev is ranked. And Khan Ofli, this is the thing that doesn't make any sense to me. We got these guys and Khan Ofli is very good. I'm not trying to talk shit about Khan Ofli, but you got guys who lose on the Ultimate Fighter, and then they just get brought into the UFC anyway. I really don't understand it. And listen, I do see a lot of skill in Khan Ofli. He's got good striking. He's a little small for the featherweight division, if I'm being honest. I'd like to see him try to get down to bantamweight, but he does have quite a bit of skill. His jiu-jitsu is good. His kickboxing is good. This is going to be a tough fight for him, though, I think. Naimov is good. He's not great, but he is good. And if you're talking about a guy who couldn't win the Ultimate Fighter, I don't know. This is kind of a little bit of a toss-up for me because I do see a lot of skill in Ofli. I'm gonna pick Ofli. I'm gonna say he had a bad fight against Myron Santos in the Ultimate Fighter finale, and I say he's gonna come back and have a good performance here. That's my guess.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'm going Naimov on this one. I was just looking back at some of his fights. Again, nothing crazy impressive. But he does have a knockout win over Jamie Malarkey, who is one of those guys that I feel like a lot of the people trying to enter the division end up fighting.
The Nathaniel
Wood
has win too.
Yeah, and then he's also got a win over Eric Silva, which isn't bad. I mean, Eric Silva is one of those guys, like nobody really is hyped on Eric Silva, but it's a win.
But
and
the
it was
win over
another
Nathaniel
KO in
Wood,
the first round.
the win over Nathaniel Wood, I rate that very highly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's got a lot of good wins right now. Decent finish rate as well. So it's one of those where it's, I just think he's going to be a little bit too much to handle in this case.
Yeah, I feel like a decision win over Nathaniel Wood is definitely something that I see that's a very green flag in your record. If you can beat a fighter of that caliber by decision over 3 rounds and not, really slip up, I rate that very highly. Just to kind of piggyback off what Ryan said, if not being good enough to win the Ultimate Fighter, stuff like that, but they still put you in. We got to remember that that's how Khalil got into the UFC. He didn't win his season of the Ultimate Fighter. I think he got eliminated pretty early too, but let's see how he ended up compared to where the winner of his season ended up, which was, I think it was Andrew Sanchez. Totally forgettable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But Naimov, with the wins he has, and his style, I feel like is gonna have a really easy path to victory against Khan Ofli.
Yeah, he's got the size advantage definitely too. Khan Ofli is 5'7" in the featherweight division. It's kind of tough, but then again, so is Topuria. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think skill wise, I rate Khan Ofli a little bit higher. Muhammad Naimov definitely has the ability to find wins, though. This should actually be a good fight. Let's move up. Ikram Aliskerov versus Andre Manuz got canceled, so we're going to move up to Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. Dude, Vinicius Oliveira is very good.
Yes.
Very, very good. Lock dog, bro. What you know? Yeah. Vinicius Oliveira, I'm going with him to get it done. I think his anti grappling is very good. I don't see Said taking him down. He's very strong for the bantamweight division. Oliveira is. He's a big bantamweight. And Said Nurmagomedov is a tall bantamweight, but he's very skinny as well. I think the strength advantage is going to go to Oliveira here, and Oliveira is actually a plus 164 dog. Like betting wise, wow. I think this is probably like one of the best dogs to bet on this card.
Nice.
I don't know why people are underestimating him here. The very, very impressive recent win over Ricky Simone, like very impressive win. Absolutely just outclassed him. Yeah, I'm going with Oliveira here.
Yeah, I am as well. I was looking back and, Said Nurmagomedov is certainly good, but he does have a loss to Jonathan Martinez, and I think Oliveira is better than Jonathan Martinez.
I agree.
And it's one of those situations where Said definitely enjoys the striking side of MMA for being a Nurmagomedov, so I think he's going to be willing to try and stand with Oliveira, and I think that's going to be a mistake for him. So I think Oliveira gets it done for sure.
Yeah, I'm also going to pick Oliveira in this one. I think that win over Ricky Simone, coming from, like his last fight being that win over Ricky Simone, I rate that very highly against Nurmagomedov because they have a very similar style. Just very strong grappler with threatening strikes on the feet. And so I feel like him coming off that win, plus, his style going up against Said, who is more a striker compared to like the other grappling Dagestanis, is going to be a perfect matchup because I feel like Said is more of a striker than a grappler. So if he decides that he's losing on the feet, which I think he will, and he tries to start shooting takedowns, I feel like that's only going to hinder his performance even more because Vinicius is going to be able to defend him. And another thing, too, is the momentum for the Dagestani camp has been, kind of, other than Islam, they've been kind of slipping up lately. So we might be seeing the end of an era for the Dagestanis.
I think Said trains at a different camp than the rest of those guys. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive he trains with a different camp, which kind of explains why he has almost a completely different style than all those guys.
Yeah.
This is another one. It's going to be a really good fight. This actually, like, the matchmaking on this card is pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's move up. Sergey Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Man, yo, this is a fun one at heavyweight. We got Jairzinho Rozenstruik, which in my opinion, I think he has the most power in the heavyweight division. I also think he's kind of lacking in skills. Everybody, like the commentary team, always talks about his decorated kickboxing background and how he's such a talented kickboxer. I don't see it, dude. The dude's got almost zero hip flexibility. I don't think he can kick above hip level. And he loves throwing like straight arm punches, which serves him well because he has that crazy power where you see like he barely needs to touch someone for them to go out. But he has trouble with dudes who have a long reach. Even in like the Alistair Overeem fight where he got that TKO at the end, he was losing that fight to Alistair Overeem.
He was losing 99% of it.
Yeah. And he definitely struggles with people with a long reach. And Sergey Pavlovich I think he's tied for longest reach in the UFC right now. I think he's got an 84-inch reach, which is crazy. Pavlovich coming off of these 2 bad losses, who knows what we're going to see from him, whether he's going to be gun shy or whether he's just made his style a little bit smarter. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with Pavlovich here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Pavlovich as well. I was looking back, and he does have 2 losses back-to-back, but it's against really high-level competition, right? It's against Tom Aspinall, who's obviously the champ at the moment, and it's also against Volkov, who is doing well for himself. He's kind of been hit or miss. There was that one decision loss that maybe shouldn't have been a decision loss, but,
He won that fight.
He won that fight easily. Yeah, 29-28 clearly.
Yep. So, Pavlovich has been in high-level competition. I'm not saying Rozenstruik hasn't, but I think Pavlovich has got a little bit more motivation to maybe try and turn this around, because I do think that he can't suffer more losses in a row and continue to do what he's doing. He's looked great. His strength and conditioning in his last few fights has always been crazy. He looked huge the last time he was out against Volkov. So I do think that he's going to have that length advantage, and I think he's probably going to have a strength advantage over Rozenstruik as well. I'm going Pavlovich.
I'm also going Pavlovich on this one. I know he is, like Andrew was saying, coming off those 2 losses, one of them being to the champ, Tom Aspinall, and Volkov had like a masterful game plan against Sergey. He's also one of the only people that could implement such a game plan because he himself is so big and tall. And nobody has like that skill set to float around and like kickbox on the outside like Volkov can with the power that he has. That being said, Sergey was still in there for both of those fights. In both of those fights, he was still the one, pushing forward, being countered. And I feel like Jairzinho is a fighter that needs things to take place very slowly at a slow pace. That's why all of his fights are kind of lackluster until some action happens. I feel like Sergey is really going to bring the fight to him, and he has all of the weapons to flatline KO Jairzinho Rozenstruik, which is what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be like a spectacular knockout.
I hope so.
Long straight punches, dude, from fucking Sergey. That's what I want to see. Just pa,
Yeah, I hope. Even like he's got such a long reach. Even like if he throws wide hooks, I think he has a good chance of being the first one to land in a combination, just because he has that reach advantage.
And his boxing, like I know he's a very strong power puncher, but his boxing is super crisp. Yeah. Like that is not something that needs to like. There's differences between like a Derek Lewis power puncher and a Sergey Pavlovich power puncher. Like his boxing, like there is setups, there is a method to his madness. Like he throws the right punches to set up the right openings, and he knows to like change where he's punching at what angles to move your guard around to be able to find KO shots. And I feel like that's where it's going to really have a lot of success against Jairzinho. Yeah. And the only thing I really see that Jairzinho has to bring to this fight is like a sneaky calf kick that he's pretty good at, because he doesn't load up his hip, he just kind of flicks it out there. I feel like that could be a weapon that we should watch out for, because if he starts taking out that lead leg, Sergey won't have anything to put the power on. So
that's the only kick he has, though, because he has like zero flexibility. The dude is like,
he doesn't even turn his hip over.
Stiff, dude. It looks like every bone, every joint in his body is like locked. Yeah. All right. I'll stop shitting on Jairzinho. Let's go up. Shara Magomedov versus Michael Venom Page. Andrew, I know you're particularly excited about this one. Why don't you break it down for me?
Absolutely. This is definitely one of those fights that I've been waiting for ever since Shara kind of started making this big run with his momentum now being in the ranks. MVP's always been one of my favorite fighters, and my heart's telling me to go with MVP. I was looking at this fight a little closer, and I think there's a couple things that are really important. The biggest one for Shara is he's got a much better inside game, right? So we're talking once we've kind of closed that distance, there's either a clinch, there's kind of those in the pocket strikes. Shara's obviously shown some really cool abilities to throw like that double back fist that he got against Petrosian recently to kind of deal with that chaos in the pocket. MVP's never been comfortable in the pocket. I can't think of any of his fights where his success was found in those exchanges where they're fighting in a phone booth. MVP's got that really long bladed stance, almost a more aggressive version of what Wonder Boy does. And so he needs that ability to kind of launch in with that big cross that he throws, or he sets up a lot of kick from the outside. So I think the big difference here is going to be whether Shara implements a low kick game, because we saw that was kind of the biggest way to stop him. Douglas Lima was actually the first guy to kind of solve the problem, so to speak, which was low kicking as he was coming in, knocked him off balance, and he followed up when they were in close. If MVP can maintain the distance to make it a point striking fight, I think he wins. If Shara can kind of keep the distance and pressure a little higher, I think the Pirate style works here, and I think he might get it done. I'm going to go with Michael Venom Page on this one for now. I'd love to see him get this one done. That being said, I think we're probably going to get a pretty cool fight or a really boring fight where they're just feeling each other out. I think this could be a fight of the night contender. I also could see a really crazy finish happening here.
Yeah, I personally, man, I still am not on the Shara hype train. The win over, listen, at first I was critiquing the Shara knockout over Petrosian. I was like, man, who turns their back to someone like that for that amount of time? But watching it more carefully and looking at the way that he set it up, it was actually a very impressive knockout. That being said, not enough to get me on the hype train yet. I think his defense is not great. I think he's not very fast. I don't really think he has the grappling here to like impose on MVP, which really would be his biggest advantage. But let's be honest, Shara is mainly a striker, and if you want to strike with MVP, it's gonna be a tough night. Now, one big factor here is MVP is moving up to middleweight. Who knows if he's gonna have the same speed that he has down at welterweight? I'm still gonna count on him to have a good amount of speed here, and I think based on Shara's kind of lack of striking defense, I think Michael Page is going to be able to blitz in on him and hit him with like a big right hand, a big blitzing right hand. I see him knocking out Shara with a right hand.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm also going to go with MVP on this one. I think styles make fights, and I think that Shara Margamedov is also kind of similar to where he likes to be real floaty around the octagon and have a lot of movement in his game. He usually likes to be the one trying to get the angles here. You're just not going to win a fight like that against MVP. He's one of the best at staying safe as far as like where he's moving and like the locomotion of being in a fight. He's just one of the best at it, and it's from that point style karate background that he has. If Shara wants to have success, he's going to need to attack the legs, and I don't think he's going to be able to get in range to even attack the legs without MVP changing where he's moving or, just getting angles on him. It's people can't find MVP in the octagon.
And speaking on that, sorry to interrupt, but speaking on that a little bit, just to Michael Venom Page's evasiveness, I'm looking at their significant strike absorbed per minute. We got 1.45 for MVP and 4.5 absorbed per minute for Shara. Just speaking to that lack of defense from Shara and how good MVP's defense is, it's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you're thinking about that, it's like he's there to be hit a lot more. I don't think he's going to be able to even like get close enough to really shoot takedowns on him. So I feel like MVP is going to be able to snipe Shara from far away. With that being said, Shara is one of these people that has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. That's where like that pirate style comes from, like that double spinning back fist, and then the second part of the back fist hitting on the offbeat after, like on the blind side to the back fist you just defended. Like that's some trickery there. There's lots of smoke bombs going on. I love that. So, he could be anticipating a long blitz from Michael Venom Page, like a straight cross or something like that. and like hit a spinning elbow or something like that and just like time it perfectly. He's going to be one of those fighters that is going to be able to produce moments like that, because that's his whole style. So that being said, I'm picking MVP by KO, and it's going to be a fun one.
Heck yeah.
I think it's going to be a quick draw, right? I think this is one of those where you see MVP. I mean, one of his most notorious knockouts against Cyborg over in Bellator, where he cracked the dude's skull with a flying knee. He's got that ability too, where he'll just wait and wait and wait. And if you push yourself just a little bit outside of it, he's got the potential to just hit you with one thing. And it's kind of that quick draw moment where you fucked up a little too soon and he took a massive advantage. So it's going to be interesting to see if that chaos either kind of stays controlled there where MVP is able to measure, or if Shara's just going to try and, I don't know. Yeah, maybe set something sneaky up or really try and be heavy on the pressure, but it's tough to pressure MVP. So we'll see.
And I'm just going to make like even a little bit more of a detailed prediction for how this fight's going to go down. I think it's going to be a very boring fight until MVP gets the finish. They both like to counter strike, and you know, when you get two counter strikers in there, it can just be a lot of measuring. So I think it will be like a pretty boring fight until something big happens. And I'm gonna count on MVP to have that big moment.
Nice.
But let's move up to the main event, a very good main event in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Nassourdine Imavov's been on a tear. Israel Adesanya, trying to prove that he's still that guy. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. I think he will. I think this is a good fight for Izzy personally. But Nassourdine Imavov, he's young, he's strong, he's well-rounded. I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like where Nassourdine's been at lately, he's been on a tear. But what I think is the fight we got to look at here is going to be the fight with Brandon Allen. He was getting outstruck by Brandon Allen, bro. I saw it with my own two eyes. Like, he was getting pieced up by Brandon Allen. And I feel like that is just a recipe for disaster against somebody like Israel Adesanya, who has underrated takedown defense. He has been taken down. It's not something that's crazy, and he does give up the back. But I feel like he's just one of these people that he really works on the holes in his game. He's not scared to get in there and roll, and he's not scared to have, like, Craig Jones come out and, sharpen up his grappling. I know Robert Whitaker and him have been training together lately, and that's a really great thing to see. But Robert Whitaker spoke on their training together, and he said that the thing that surprised him the most was Israel Adesanya's jiu-jitsu and takedown defense. So I feel like against somebody like Nassourdine, who's still, getting those wins to solidify a title shot, I feel like he's going to be able to take all of that momentum from Nassourdine with a great performance. I feel like contender Izzy is somebody that's very motivated, and if he loses this fight, we might be looking at a retirement or a change of weight class or something like that. Because if he loses this, it's way in the back of the queue now with Hamza and Kyle Bahalio and Strickland and Drake. All these people are going to be way ahead of him now. But with that being said, I think Izzy is going to be able to outstrike and defend the takedowns of Nassourdine to get the win.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things too where, Israel, even looking back at his fight against Duplessis, looked great for 90% of the fight until there was that kind of freak accident that, Duplessis is so good at taking advantage of. That's one of those situations where, had it gone the distance, it would have been a pretty definitive win for Izzy. And so that's one of those situations where I don't think he's lost it. I just think he's unfortunately been in some odd situations, the styles that have kind of been opposing to him recently. And I think he did find kind of a cruising momentum after the Pereira fights, right? I think that was kind of something that brought him back a little bit, where he was more motivated. Because there was a moment there where we were kind of just seeing decision after decision after decision from Izzy, and he wasn't trying to push the pace like he has when he was on his way up. I'm hoping that, the second time on the way up looks a lot like the first, and he starts going after finishes and really trying to kind of showcase that he is still that guy. And in this case, I think he is. I think he's going to get it done here. And I hope in a pretty dominant fashion. I'd love to see another Paulo Costa style win.
Yeah, I could definitely see it, because one big factor here, although Imavov is younger, Izzy is still much faster. And when you're talking about this type of, Imavov does have clean striking. He doesn't bum rush in. He doesn't try to create a car crash like Duplessis tries to do. He likes the fight to be clean as well. And things that, all three of us have said about Izzy in the past is that he kind of needs the fight to be like at his pace and clean and at his distance. I think Nassourdine is going to give him that. Which is even more so why I think this is a very winnable fight for Izzy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, looking
That's
back
really
at Nassourdine, he lost to Strickland as well, which to me is one of those situations where it shows that when he can't dictate the pace, he starts to struggle a little bit more. And Strickland is a prime example of somebody that tries to force a pace every fight. You're fighting at Strickland's pace, whether you want to or not. And I think Imavov struggled with that. So I could see if Izzy can kind of do the same thing where he's the one dictating the pace, regardless of how fast or slow it might be, I think Imavov is going to start to maybe have to figure out how to work around that. And Izzy's not the guy to try and figure out how to work around.
Let's see. Okay. I was gonna see if the Nassourdine fight was actually against Strickland was on short notice because I wanted to say it was. But if that was the case, you can't really blame his cardio too much on that. But if it wasn't, then it is what it is. That being said, though, what Ryan was saying that Nassourdine's going to give Izzy these really clean striking exchanges. The styles you need to beat Izzy. You need to be able to hit him with something that's going to flatline him or like seriously rock him right away, or you need to intercept him like Yoel Romero was doing. As he's coming in, you just land the one big shot. But it's like all of these things, I don't feel like Nassourdine has. So I feel like he's not going to be able to like volume TKO Izzy. He might be able to create a moment which leads to a grappling exchange, but again, I think Izzy is good enough to be able to get out of those types of situations. So, I think it's going to be a clear win for Izzy, and it's going to be a little showcase. And I'm hoping that it creates a lot of, buzz, because whenever a person that's this famous wins, we always want to see what happens next. Does he move up to light heavyweight while middleweight's a little bit busy? Does he wait for Dricus to fight Strickland and then the Hamzat fight? Does he fight again? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate take. I think it probably more than likely is going to be a classic Adesanya performance here. That's just how I see it. But that's our breakdown for the entire card of UFC Fight Night, Saudi Arabia, Adesanya versus Imavov. Please let us know what you think in the comments about any of these matchups. Like, comment, and subscribe, please. We really appreciate everybody watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Adios.
Peace.